Supernova International Ska Festival is only weeks away now. Do you have tickets to what is going to be the biggest and best U.S. ska festival of the year? Look at this lineup. Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra, Fishbone, Bad Manners, Voodoo Glow Skulls, Bad Operation, Catbite, Out of Control Army, Rude Girl Review, Stranger Cole, Suicide Machines, and so many more. This is the best of the best. Tickets are $150 for the entire 3-day fest or $59.99 per day. If you can't make it, but you want to catch the entire show, you can purchase a live stream of the entire festival for $39.99. Aaron and I will be hosting a second feed that is included in the package where we'll be chatting with folks at the festival, interviewing bands, and discussing the performance. Head on over to supernovaska.com to grab tickets. If you're an Indefensive Ska Patreon subscriber, you'll get a discount on the live stream package. And if you're not in the Indefensive Ska Patreon, what are you waiting for? For $5 a month, you'll be supporting your favorite podcast. See you at Supernova International Ska Festival on September 15th, 16th, and 17th. This is the Ska Festival of Ska Festivals. And now, on with the show.
Artist Sam Grinberg works for The Simpsons, a dream gig for anyone in animation. In addition to working on Homer Simpson, he also does his own art, which includes quite a few ska and punk references, like the absurd How to Skank at a Ska Show comic. He's also drawn quite a few flyers for punk and ska bands like Less Than Jake, Awful Waffle, Catbite, and others. Today, we sit down with Sam to discuss his connection to the ska scene and to see if we can search for any traces of ska in The Simpsons.
How much did you watch Simpsons growing up?
I think season 1 till, 11 or 12, every episode. I taped it. I rewatched it on VHS, bring it to friends' houses and watch episodes.
Yeah.
It was like a major part of my life in those years.
Yeah. And also, I mean, there's a weird through line with Simpsons connected to music. They always have special musical guests. They get bands to show up on the show. I found it really interesting getting to actually speak to an artist who has feet in both worlds, who works on The Simpsons and is a fan of ska punk type music.
Now, it's my understanding that you started working with The Simpsons in 2015.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think I was actually an intern in 2014, but I think I originally I got hired in 2015. So yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, so you've been a freelance character designer, as I understand. That's correct?
Not back then. Back then, I mean, right now I just work there actually full time. I was freelance character design for a little while before I hopped on as a full-time artist.
Can you explain what a character designer does?
Oh yeah, for sure. Basically, I mean, every animated show has it, and for the most part, it's similar. But for me in particular on this show, basically I should say that most shows have character designers and prop designers. If you're a character designer, you're designing characters, and props would be literally anything else. But in this show, on the show I'm working on now, usually it's characters, which would be, if the script says there's a new character or an old character in a different outfit. But I also do these kind of like character prop hybrids, which would be like, a photograph of someone, doing this, or a magazine cover. So that's like the gray area that I also sometimes tackle as well.
So what are some of your characters that you've designed with Simpsons?
Oh man. I mean, there's so many. I mean, every day there's like, you can go from like, you're just doing so many different designs every day. I can't even think of it, honestly. What comes to mind? I don't know. I mean, my favorite one, which is one that was really fun to do, is from 2019, I think, because it's right before the pandemic, and that's why I remember. But there was a Halloween episode, a Treehouse of Horror episode, and in the script it was like Homer glitches and he becomes like a SpongeBob hybrid. So it's fun to draw like a SpongeBob Homer mashup.
How much do you have to worry about like clearance on stuff like that?
Well, that's not really my, job necessarily. Like whatever the script says, I mean, they tell you like, even if the script says let's, for this example, SpongeBob, I guess it is my job to change it as much as I possibly can for legal reasons, but still make it apparent that it is what it is. And sometimes I'll
Right.
get a note back in like a month being like, hey, like they didn't, this is still too close. So change it even more. Or sometimes like, oh, it looks good enough. And, also it depends on the context. Like sometimes they'll say like, if it within the writing, it's already satirical on their end, then you can get away with it. But if there's
Yeah.
context that needs to be, fleshed out, then I have to go back and change it.
Okay.
So in the instance of the SpongeBob Homer,
Hmm.
what do they give you to start with? Does it just say Homer as SpongeBob, go to town, or do they give you detailed notes?
For that one in particular, I think that would be straightforward. So basically, that they would not give any notes, but like there are plenty of designs where there's like, in addition to whatever's written in the script, they will map out whatever they have in mind. Like they can, it depends on who's written it too, but some are specific, like, they want a character to like give them freckles, glasses, an overcoat. Like they'll be specific like that, or sometimes they'll leave it up to you. And then there's a director that would come in, and if the script doesn't have notes, the director has their thoughts as well. So there's a lot of people that help me with direction for that.
How much of it is creative on your part versus like you just fulfilling someone else's creativity?
I mean, I would say it's like 90% creative on my part, because even if they give you a ton of, notes, there's still like, if they want a guy with a mustache and glasses, there's still so many ways you can draw a fun guy with glasses and a mustache, like it's really open. It's really up to you to fulfill that. And of course, it also depends on the director as well. Like if the director has a specific vision already, then you'll follow that, but some want to see what you have to come up with, what you can come up with, and then from there maybe they'll tweak it or they'll like it as is. So it's still fun. I mean, it's still completely creative and open.
I was reading one that came up that you attribute to is Trippy Bart. What's Trippy Bart?
Wait, I don't actually know what that is. Something that I was attributed to?
Yeah.
Like for the show?
Yeah, character you designed, Trippy Bart.
That doesn't sound familiar,
All right.
honestly. I don't know.
It looks like there's a Google search that says Trippy Bart was an original Sam Grinberg illustration,
Really?
which looks might, and
I gotta look
then
this up.
which looks mighty sweet.
Let me see.
It's mightily
From
sweet.
2017.
From 2017.
But then when I clicked through, I couldn't actually find the image.
Oh, you know what I found? I saw. Oh, that's funny. I see something here. I know what you're talking about. I drew, I drew that just on a post-it, because I would fill my cubicle with post-its, and someone got that tattooed on them.
So what
That's
was
what
it?
it is. Yeah. It wasn't for the show. It was just a random doodle. Yeah, I just drew this like bizarre looking Bart with his hair spikes going on wild. Uh, it's funny. I see the article, but there's no image. I think I found it.
How many people have Sam Grinberg tattoos?
I mean, there have been a few that have. I mean, I would say there's 5 that have gotten them based on just random Simpsons doodles, and then there's a few which feel even nicer that are like my own artwork that people have got before, which is cool in its own right.
Any designs you could remember that you could share with us? Like, what was the concept?
Let me think. I know that somebody got. I did for regarding the Simpsons. I did a like a weird in my style-ish itchy and scratchy thing of like itchy bursting through scratchy's stomach, and that was something that I drew for. It was right when I was, I think, hired. So I just happened to be lucky at that point where they were working on Universal Studios, like putting decals on the Krusty Burger wall, and they wanted the artist to draw things in their own style, like every artist on the show, which was really cool because usually you have to draw in Matt Groening, the Simpsons style. So anyway, that was cool. So someone saw that and got that tattooed on their arm or leg or something.
How hard is it to turn off your own personal style and draw in the like preferred Simpson style?
It's funny. It's not hard for me because before I was drawing the way I draw, I was drawing The Simpsons like as a kid. Like that's what I originally was doing. Like I have so many sketchbooks full of just like trying to draw The Simpsons. And I mean, who knows if I'll ever perfect it. It's really hard, but like I
Yeah.
definitely got better once I got on the show, but like I was trying to draw them forever. I had like how to draw the Simpsons books and everything in like fifth grade. And so this style developed like later on when I was actively in college, like trying to not, I realized like everything I draw now looks like the Simpsons. And I was like, how do I draw? And then I just started to like read different comics and just come up with my own. I don't even know how it happened. It just morphed into its own thing. And then, so I can easily go back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like a lot of younger people like in art school, at least right now, the
Hmm.
way their style looks very just like anime. Like everyone draws that kind of anime style. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, but I feel like people were doing that even when I was like when I was a kid. I was like the only one in school that didn't even watch Pokemon. I remember like everybody was into that, into anime or whatever. Yeah, I guess anime. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I was in college, actually, I would say that from I could be wrong, but my memory is that most people weren't at that time. So maybe it fell into favor again, but there still were people drawing like that for sure. And I don't know. I just think it's so wildly popular, and for some reason, it just never attracted me personally. But yeah, I can't say why. I just think it's just something that kids gravitate towards.
What would you say is the main mistake people make when they're trying to draw The Simpsons?
I mean, I'm sure I make plenty all the time. I mean, there's so many. It's like it's it's hard to say. I mean, like there's so many little rules that once you learn them, it's like, oh wow, like I mean, there's basic ones that like are even kind of fans know that I'll say, like Bart has 9 spikes on his head, and I didn't really pay attention to that. Or
Oh yeah, I never noticed that.
yeah, there's little things like that. Lisa has 8, I believe, and but then there's other things that like the M on Homer's hair, like also when things are animated they move around, so everything in regards to what I'm going to say, it's not always the case, but there are certain things where like the point of the M is inside his head versus the outside of his head, and like he's a certain amount of eyeballs high, you can measure him, but so it's hard to say one mistake. The main family is incredibly difficult because they're iconic, and like one small like pixel, because we're working on a computer or whatever, one small drawing off and they look off, but other side characters or especially new characters, it's harder to tell.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I feel like I mean they're such simple designs
Hmm.
that they're deceptively hard to draw.
For sure, no, 100%. Yeah, I totally agree with that, and that's something that I kind of learned the hard way, because like I thought like, wow, like I'm drawing him so well, and then I'm like around these amazing artists that have been there for like 30 years, and they're like, no, let me show you how to really draw Homer.
So does it mean it's harder to draw like a character design if it's like a Homer style, like a Homer in an outfit versus a whole new character?
I think it's if it's Homer in an outfit, no, because there's a stock model that we dress up, so that's like the Homer's already drawn. But if there is like a special design, where let's say it's like we want Homer on the cover of a magazine, and I'm not just taking a model, now I have to draw him from scratch, and that is hard because a lot of these artists and especially the directors started as the animators, so they know three-dimensionally how to turn Homer and make him run and walk. So they're seeing things that I never saw because I am only a character designer, so I'm not making them move. So like that's in particular, I have to really, really work hard to make him look on model because they're going to notice things right away that I might miss.
How did you get the job as an intern with The Simpsons? I know I read one time that you like ran into or met Matt Groening at a like a comic festival or something.
Yeah, that was completely unrelated though, which is funny. Yeah, that was when I was still in college in Brooklyn, and that was just in like the basement of a church at this really fun comic show. I guess he used to go to that every year when they did it. But that was no, that was just unrelated. It was after college I went to UCLA for grad school, and I made oh no, that's not. Yeah, yeah. I was about to say I made a short film, but that's actually unrelated to the internship. I forgot one of the teachers there. He was a director on The Simpsons for a long time. I mean, definitely over 10 years. I don't know if it was 20 years, but he was an extremely nice guy. And when I found out he worked on the show, I was so excited. I just like begged him for an internship like every day. And after like 5 months, he gave me the information of the HR person at The Simpsons, and I got the internship luckily, and yeah, that's how it started.
Season 27, that's when your IMDb credits begin.
Uh huh. Yeah, I think that's right.
Season 28, first episode, there's like a 60s style reggae song in a scene. It's a song called Heavy Steady. And then 2 episodes later, who makes a cameo but the Mighty Mighty Bosstones?
I remember that. That was in a Boston episode.
We appreciate what you did for The Simpsons. Thank you very much.
That's hilarious. No, honestly, like that was so funny because when I was still a I was a yeah, I was a coordinator at the time, which is basically a step above a production assistant. And I remember reading that in a script and being like, I wasn't an artist yet, and I was like, "Oh my god, I wish I could have designed them. That would have been so fun." I was so jealous that because I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong, but I think the person that designed them is doesn't even like know who they are. And I was not that that matters. I design stuff all every day of people I don't know who they are, but in that case, I was like, "No, I should have done." But yeah, that was so funny that they appeared in that. And I remember even reading online that they posted something like, "Hey, we appeared in The Simpsons." Like that was the kind of
Yeah.
situation where I guess like they don't need to be asked because they're not voiced. So it's that kind of legal thing where you can get away with it. If I mean, I don't know, but that was so funny to me.
Yeah, so Matt was on Portlandia, I think, in 2015, the infamous Bart Scampson
Yes,
court case.
yes, yes.
So obviously, you're our inside man. Does he like ska?
I don't, I actually, I wondered that myself because I know that I mean, I really have not met him that many times. But like and I've never talked to him about music or anything for sure not, but like only comics briefly. But like, I heard him on a podcast, I think like a year ago or something, and somebody asked him if he does. No, you know what? I think they asked him like, "Do you like the Aquabats specifically?" And he was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I love them." Or something like that. But that's the only thing I remember. But yeah, that's so fun. That sketch was so funny because like 100 people sent that to me. Like that was made for you. Yeah.
Now, famously, Eric Stefani, Gwen Stefani's brother and founder of
Hmm.
No Doubt, worked on The Simpsons from season 1 through 9.
Yeah.
Obviously, before your time, and he even drew No Doubt into the background of the Homer Palooza episode.
I actually didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, that was his handiwork.
Oh, wow.
Did you ever meet Eric, or has he come up in conversations at your work?
Yeah, I've never met him, but yeah, he's come up many times. I mean, when people started to find out what kind of music I listen to, so many people told me the story of him working there. And I don't know if you know, actually, he would be great to interview. You should interview him. But a friend of mine, he's a character designer, also on the show. He started, I believe, literally season one. Eric Keys is like he was his best friend, and he or one of his friends I should say, and he's shown me so many videos of like because he grew up with No Doubts. He has videos just like in their garage as kids filming them practice, and like I don't know, just like hanging out and going to like SNL and when they performed and everything. Anyway, a little tangent, but no, I've never met him, but like I've heard so many stories about just like back in the day when they were like kids on The Simpsons.
Let's talk a little Simpsons ska overlap. Aside from you, 4 ska bands that I'm aware of
Mm-hmm.
have names that they've gotten from Simpsons.
Wait, I think
If you know any, say them.
I was gonna say I voted for Kodos.
Yep.
There you go.
I voted for Kodos.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wait, it's on the tip of my tongue. Oh man. You say one, then maybe I'll say one after.
There's a band called Wiggum.
Oh, I didn't know that one. No.
From Orange County.
Oh, is there one called Four Finger Discount? Is that a band?
I'm not sure. Adam, are you familiar with that band?
I mean, it sounds like that is a ska band name, but I'm not familiar with that band.
I could be making that up completely, but I think I don't know. Those are the only two that come to mind then.
And then Mr. Sparkle
I didn't know that.
from Clifton, New Jersey, and then Stupid Flanders, also from Orange County.
Wow, I should know the one about the one from New Jersey because I'm from New Jersey. I'm surprised I never heard of that one.
Not ska related, but have you ever seen O'Killy Dokilly?
No, I haven't seen them, but I know about them. That they're like a metal band from another country, right?
No, they're from Arizona.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
they're
Arizona?
from Phoenix, yeah.
Oh.
They just all dress as Flanders.
That's right. Yeah. But they're metal, right? Or screamo or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen them. Have either of you?
I did. I actually interviewed them for Playboy.
No way.
Yeah, there you go. Playboy just wanted that O'Killy Dokilly article, so
That's hilarious. How were they live?
they're great. They're much like a very brutal like metal,
Sure.
with like just blast beats and like slow, and then fast. So it's not really my style, but when it's Flanders, I'm into it.
And then, did you ask them if they like ska?
I did not ask them if they like ska, but I should dig up the email and I'll. The funny thing though is that what I do remember is because they're from Phoenix, and the Phoenix music scene seems to be particularly tight knit. Like, the guys in AJJ are friends with the guys from Jimmy Eat World, and who are friends with the guys from Mini Bosses, who are friends with diners or whatever. And it seemed like they were all tied into that scene and knew all those people. And I thought that was funny to me that they were they may have seemed like a gimmick band, but they're just part of the scene and friends with all the other normal bands.
Yeah, somehow accept they've elevated beyond gimmick band.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that Max Sabbath band.
Sure.
Everybody loves Max Sabbath. It's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I also thought of one too as you were
Please.
talking. I wanted to ask you about. I remember because when you mentioned Flanders, I remember they mentioned a ska band in an episode where Flanders opened that theme park to Maud, and I think that's the episode. And at the end, the Christian singer he's dating is like, "Oh, and I could be butchering this, but it's something like my bassist left. Oh, he's in a ska band now.
My drummer left.
Drummer
to join a Pentecostal ska band.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. I was close.
Aaron with the deep cut. Dang.
Yeah,
Mhm.
It's not a bass player. How dare you? No.
Yeah.
I found an enamel pin it's of Homer, and he's sipping on a Duff,
Mhm.
and he's got pork pie hat on, and his collars are checkered, and it just says "Scod for life." I don't know who made this.
That's funny. Just like a bootleg pin.
Yeah. Like, oh, I need a Homer that's ska. Somebody said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I've said that sentence in my life.
The weirdest thing I found online searching the words ska and Simpsons is
Mhm.
I found a business in Trinity, Florida called Ska Simpsons and Associates.
What in the world?
And it's just like a company that makes factory gear parts.
Why would so there's no real affiliation to either thing, obviously.
Yeah, so there must be like a person named Simpson as the last name, and then ska must stand for something else.
Wow. How many wrong calls do you think they get?
It's probably so sad actually working there, and then people like get all excited thinking, "Oh, Ska Simpsons." Go there. And
Yeah.
it's just sad ass factory parts.
The niche audience that gets excited. Yeah.
Yep.
So I saw you made a post in 2019. It's like a two-tone dancing ska
Mhm.
guy, but it's in your style. And your caption says, "Will I ever stop drawing ska-related things?"
I remember that. Yeah,
So let's have that be the theme of our next section.
sure.
Ska things that you've drawn. Now, okay, off the top, let's list some and just hop in and comment as you wish. Okay,
Sure.
you did the less than Jake's Fat Mike's on drugs again.
I did. Yeah.
What was that for? Was that just like a thumbnail for the album track release or what?
That was for I thought originally it was going to be a hard vinyl, but they printed like a flexi disc. So that was the art for the flexi disc that you could buy on their website, and I guess they used it for just the like the single artwork for Spotify and stuff like that.
Did you work with the band? Did they reach out to you for this?
Yeah, yeah. That was I worked not with No Effects because it was just
Yeah, it
Less
was
Than
less than
Jake,
Jake.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I worked with them on that, and I think the direction was like, we want to draw like a crazy, drugged out Fat Mike and just go nuts. It was pretty open. It was like do that. I was like, okay.
Have you worked with the band in the past?
That was actually the first time with Less Than Jake, so that was really exciting because I was such a big fan since I was a kid. But before that, I worked with Roger and Rehasher, which is why that led to this. So I've done a few things for him for that, and this was the first one that was like officially Less Than Jake. So that was really fun.
What was the art you did for Roger?
That was I did it for two I two let me think. Yeah, for two separate Rehasher vinyls, and uh or wait, it was four song? No, it's sorry, I'm trying to think. It's so funny how I said this before, but everything prior to the pandemic is like jumbled in my mind.
Sure.
But it's yeah, it was three different pieces of artwork. Yes, I was gonna say four, but I believe it's three. Two were together and then one was independent. Yeah, that's what it was.
I see you did the Hella Mega Tour poster. I'm lumping this in there because Interrupters were the opening act on this tour.
Yeah, yeah,
Also, Fallout Boy is a Simpsons reference, and
that's true.
and he's a ska fan. So there you go.
Yes.
Yeah, so it all comes together. That was just for their social media actually. I thought they were gonna make a poster of it, but I believe they ended up not doing that and they just posted it on like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and just because they asked another artist as well who just did some social media art for them.
Was this with Fallout Boy or Green Day?
It was no, actually, it wasn't specifically through a band. It was from the like the booking agent or something,
Oh,
like
okay.
whatever company runs the tour. Like I don't even know. I don't know how that stuff actually works, but I believe it's like a company that just works with uh the all three. It wasn't the label. It was like a some kind of company that worked with all three bands for the tour.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Okay, so you did the two hectic comps,
Hmm.
California Ska Punk and Ska Punk Goes International.
Yeah.
So this is Pay Attention Records, which is Phil from Ska Punk Daily. It's a subsidiary of Jump Up Records.
Hmm.
Okay, so explain this. Did Phil reach out to you? Friends with Phil?
Yeah, he did. I was just I mean, I've never met him, but through Instagram again during, the pandemic, he reshared a comic I drew which was like a funny like a fake how to skank comic that I made for a comic anthology and he saw that and just thought it was funny and then after a few months he messaged me and was like I'm working on this compilation and do you want to do the art for it and I said yeah, that sounds awesome. And I think originally he wanted it to be, I think the pitch was like Western themed or something because of the desert in California. And I was like, I mean, I was happy to do whatever he wanted, but I think I was, I pitched like, oh, why don't I just, I mean, kind of simple, but like, I think that day or something, I happened to be, looking at, what was it? It was I was driving by that, and this is also ska related, the circus liquor, which appears in Clueless. If you know what I'm talking about, that giant neon clown. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna make that the ska guy, and I'm like, how about I just make reference, if anyone will ever get that obscure reference, just like circus liquor esque giant ska guy in front of a club and a bunch of kids running in, just thinking about that scene in Clueless where they go see the Bosstones, and he's like, okay, so that's where that came from.
Yeah, I'm looking at the image right now. I just love that they're all like sort of these different styles, but they're all just like they just look so happy, and yet they're also seemingly creating chaos.
Yeah, 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 exactly. That's I was trying to go for just as many different people as possible.
Yeah, let's see. The international one. What was the thoughts on this one?
I think the international one was like, I was going to come up with something completely different, but he wanted them to be, you know, connected in a way. So I just took all the characters, or most of them, I think, from the first one, and just put them like on a plane.
Okay.
On a or bus, either way. No, I think I imagined it like just they're traveling somewhere, and inside, I drew like a checkered earth and like getting off the air. It's like a little story in the on the discs. It's I think it was like the earth, and then on the plane, getting off the plane, and the table with like a bunch of drinks and tickets and headphones, etc.
Let's see. So you've done work for Holophonics, Kill Lincoln, Save Ferris.
Actually, what's funny about the say I completely forgot about the Safe Ferris thing, because that was another interesting one, because I didn't plan to do anything for them, that was fun that I got the chance to do that, because I was working with I did a poster for who was it? It was for a band through Live Nation, for a specific venue in California. And then after that, they were like, hey, we're closing down House of Blues in downtown Disney and opening it, across the street into some big plaza. And I guess either they own them or they're affiliated with them. I don't remember at the moment, but um, either way, Live Nation was like, we need artwork for. Permanent artwork inside the House of Blues in Anaheim for the walls, because that's what they want to do. So I guess they asked a ton of different artists to design flyers for bands that have played at House of Blues on skate decks and put them all up on the walls. And ironically, the Save Ferris one didn't, they never printed that one, and it didn't make it on the wall, because I think the bands I was assigned was like them, Corn, which I've never listened to, but it was fun to draw something for that. Thrice, and one more that I can't remember. But anyway, so it's fine. They printed all the ones except the one that I cared about the most. I don't know why, but it's not up there.
You've never listened to Corn at all?
No, I know. I let you down.
That was one of Adam's favorite bands.
No.
I really don't know if we're joking or not.
We're joking. That's not true.
Okay.
So, but with Holophonics and Kill Lincoln, I assume it was a more friendly kind of conversation with the bands themselves.
Oh, for that, yeah. That was when I moved to California after like a year. I just really wanted to just draw some fun flyers, and I honestly think it was just from like, I like never go on Twitter, but I think I was on Twitter and saw one of it was before I knew who either of those bands were, and they just posted something like, the algorithm sent me some kind of ska related thing that was like, uh it said like, ska. I believe I'm not messing up this story, but it was something like ska revival tour or something like that, and I somehow found them through that, and then reached out and was like, hey, I'll draw some stuff for you, and they were like, yeah, sure. So it totally was friendly, like you said, and it just started from there.
Now, you did a cartoon of Awful Waffle. I think it was for the 2021 Ska Mom Memorial Show.
Hmm. Yeah, that was fun.
Now you depicted, I think, 27 people.
Oh, wow, it's that many? That's crazy.
Is there any reason? I mean, I know that they've gone through some members. Is that how many people have been in the band? Or was it just kind of like you're just messing around?
That was just for composition, honestly. I had no idea. I just had to figure out how many people I could fit on a that would fit big on a shirt because it was for a shirt, and make it so everyone's will be blocked. So it was literally was just figuring out how can I block people's feet the right way and make it so it'll just feel pleasant to the eyes.
I just figured it was some kind of like, the joke about how many people are in ska bands and stuff, like just kind of
That's
taken to
funny.
a little further than normal.
No. The only joke I inserted in there was on the top left, that dinosaur and squid, because that was the only shirt I remember them ever making, and the one I wore as a kid all the time because they're like I grew up like right where they're from, so like that's why I put them because they were fighting on the shirts. I put them like they were beating each other up, and now they're friends.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, Awful Waffle, yeah, that was an important band for you.
For sure.
Like one of the first ska bands you've ever saw.
Um, it has to be. Yeah, I believe it. I can't say definitively is, but it definitely has to be because my earliest memory would be at 15, and I think it might be, yeah, like the Stone Pony in New Jersey or something.
Now, what was your experience with ska when you discovered Awful Waffle? Were you already a fan from stuff on the radio or bigger bands?
I don't think they were the first band I discovered. I think they were the first local band I ever interacted with because I think the first band or ska band I ever heard was actually Streetlight Manifesto, which is also from near where I'm from as well. And I've never actually, talked to people outside of New Jersey to see if they're as big in other states as they were where I'm from, but it seemed like, even kids who you would expect to not know what ska is was listening to Streetlight, in my high school.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but with Awful Waffle, I think that came about because they were opening for Streetlight or something at like there's this venue called Starland Ballroom, and they had like an outdoor festival or something. And unless I'm again confusing festivals, I believe Awful Waffle played there, so that's when I saw them for the first time. But to be honest, I didn't know that they were like a small local band at the time. Because I was so unaware of everything, I just assumed that they're like a huge band and they're coming to this town to play. Like maybe when you're young, you think that about every band, but
Totally.
yeah. But my experience with that was I remember just thinking it was so fun and that they were like kind of close to my age seeing a band like because every other band was like they're I just assumed they're like adults, so that was the kind of a different experience.
Do you have any memory of Awful Waffle from those early days?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, let me see. So I saw them at the Stone Pony. I saw them at Starland Ballroom twice, and then one other venue that I don't even remember where. But my earliest memory of them was I remember I remember them covering "Semi Charm Kind of Life" every time I saw them, and I remember I was so in the dark about everything. I think the first time I saw them, I thought that was their song.
Did they do it ska or is it just like a straight cover?
I think it was in the in between. I would say I don't know if they had horns for that cover, but I think it was somewhere in the middle of both.
So do you remember the moment you heard the original on the radio?
I don't know, but I remember finding out. And
And you're like, what's going on?
yeah, exactly. Like, wow, this band is covering Awful Waffle. No, but I do remember that album. This is another thing because I saw that album was on iTunes. I also assumed that they were, they're just a massive band. I'm like, oh, and their music is on iTunes. I didn't know that anyone can kind of put their music on iTunes. But I loved that like album. I listened to that like crazy. That was like the only thing I listened to my junior year of high school.
What's the name of the album?
Overstaying Our Welcome, I think.
And yeah, how would you describe that album to somebody not familiar with Awful Waffle?
It's funny because it has a lot of fun melodic tunes in there, and like I it's funny because you're asking me to describe to someone else, but music is also very like nostalgic and emotional for me in general. So when I think of that album, because I went through a breakup at that time, it's very sad to me, even though a lot of those songs are upbeat. But they are melancholy in a way, regardless of my own personal experience. But I feel like that maybe is not the first band I would you know give to someone if they are looking for some upbeat happy ska, because there's something in there that's definitely like a little bit sad.
You have a favorite song from that record?
Well, I listened to that song "Cry on You" like I don't know, so many times.
All right.
So maybe that one.
Cry on You by Awful Waffle. Give it a listen. Okay, so you mentioned the How to Skank comic. Let's get into the How to Skank comic.
Sure.
I think it would be good if it was read so people can understand. Would you like to read it, or would you like me to read it?
I'd have to find it. Let me see. Let's see if I can pull it up.
It's on this website called samgrinberg.com.
Oh, well, there you go. Yes, there we go. Okay, I'll read it.
Please, yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, maybe I'll give you the backstory first. There was this comics anthology by this woman, Shelley Bond, who put together. She found me at Comic Con and just was pulling together various artists and making this book on just like a how-to instruction manual. But I think most of them were legitimate, and I just didn't know what to do. So I came up with this. So anyway, this is how to skank at a ska show. Try to convince your friend slash significant other that ska isn't dead, that it's just as popular as ever, and that it's going to be a super fun show. And then there's a guy like creepily staring into this woman's face. Once you realize your friend slash significant other doesn't know what ska is and that you wasted your time trying to defend it, explain that ska is a genre of music.
Oh, thank you for the shout out, by the way.
That's funny. Yeah, you're welcome. Now that your friend slash significant other knows that ska is sort of, what ska is sort of, explain that skanking isn't a derogatory term. It's simply the style of dancing you perform at a ska show. Force your friend slash significant other to listen to your Keys Be Nice CD on the way to the show to get them in the mood. Once you arrive at the venue, try not to be too annoyed when you find out the band you came to see goes on in 3 hours at 10:30. And then there's a little poster on the wall that says Star Band Ballroom, which is referencing Starland Ballroom, a venue near where I grew up. And sound check 6 o'clock, doors 7 p.m. Exploding Sheep 9 p.m. Acquiring Satellites 9:30 p.m. Awful Strudel.
Awful Strudel.
Yes, obviously that's referencing that. The one in the middle is a band that I completely made up from my comics, and then which is a dated joke now because it's a GPS would always acquire satellites in the car and it would never work before iPhones, and I just would say I hate these satellites so much that I just decided to make it a fake band name and it means nothing now. Anyway, and um Explosive Sheep was this local ska band and also from my town that would open for Awful Waffle, which I guess I could talk about later, whatever I remember from that. And okay, let's see. Scope out your surroundings and pay close attention to the energy of the crowd, avoiding overly drunk guys, ensuring you'll be able to skank in peace. Decide to save your energy to skank for the headliner. After all, that is the band you came to see. When your band finally goes on, plow your way through the crowd to the skank pit, trying not to annoy too many people along the way. Text your friend slash significant other that you're sorry you lost them for the whole show since you got punched in the face by an annoyed fan when you shoved your way into the skank pit. The end. And 3 parody names in there: Real Big Squish, The Sword of Specials, and Less Than Fake. Sponsored by Mud Light.
Lovely.
Thank you.
So Explosive Sheep?
Yeah, is that one that you've heard of or sounds familiar?
No.
That was just there was I can't remember his name, but they were hold on, let me see if I could the 2 shirts I wore like crazy, the bright blue Awful Waffle one and a bright green Explosive Sheep one. It was just a guy who was a huge ska fan. I would run into him at like every ska show and he had a band and obviously that's the perfect, well, arguably the perfect ridiculous ska band name. And yeah, I believe he opened for them, unless I'm mistaken. Like I think they used to have things, or I think they still do, but they would have these shows like Skanksgiving and these sort of ska themed shows at Starland Ballroom and Stone Pony and stuff. And yeah, and basically, so my memory is that of them. This is my only memory that. Explosive Sheep, a ska band, was opening for someone I was friends with. His band in high school was Stolen Oregano, and he was like a punk band, but with ska influence, and they opened for a metal band called Cannibalistic Fruitcake, and this was at a venue where after the ska band left, everybody went in and completely destroyed that venue. I mean, like they threw chairs, and it was horrible, and like everybody got kicked out one after one, and then that venue shut down.
God band shouldn't have left.
I know, I know.
So, do you remember any Explosive Sheep songs?
Let me see. I remember buying their CD. Oh God. Um, I I think one was called like "Don't Sing Along" or something. Actually, let me see. I might even. I think I have it on my computer. Oh no. Okay. I have, yeah. "Speak of the Devil."
How was Explosive Sheep, though?
I mean, I remember liking them when I was, in high school, and they sounded pretty good. I mean, I remember even listening to that CD quite often and be like, yeah, they're pretty good. I don't think that guy is playing music anymore. I mean, I've lost touch. I barely knew him then, but I don't think they're doing anything. But I do, after I posted this comic, someone who used to be in that band did reach out to me, and they were like, "Wow, I can't believe you remember that band." Like, yeah, I do.
Okay, so you were born in New York, and then you moved to
hmm
New Jersey in your second grade.
Yes, that's right.
What part of New Jersey?
Manalapan in Monmouth County.
What is that near?
Um, it's like 20 minutes from the shore, like near Asbury Park, I guess I would say 30 minutes.
So tell me a little bit about getting into ska. Were you into other music first, or was ska like the first music you really gravitated towards?
Yeah, I wasn't into music at all, literally until like maybe seventh grade, like pretty late actually. After maybe the end of seventh grade, it's because I became friends with someone who he was really big into just music in general, punk bands and rock bands and ska bands, and he played guitar, and yeah, I before I even knew what ska was or listened to ska, yeah, I basically, he introduced me to like Green Day and kind of like classic rock stuff. I feel like every kid goes through that briefly. Like even they like buy a greatest hits of AC/DC and The Clash and Led Zeppelin, just like everything, a little bit of everything. But I gravitated more towards more like whatever pop punk bands, if you will. And then he showed me, I think the first this isn't ska quite yet, but I remember he showed me like a Flogging Molly song, Seven Deadly Sins, and I was really into that. And then after that, I said, oh, if you like that, then he gave me like a Streetlight CD, and that was the first ska band I ever heard, and that was I'd never heard anything like that before. And after that, then it just it all exploded from there.
When did you start going to shows? Were you going to bigger shows first, or did you just kind of get into the smaller shows?
Let me see. No, it was Warped Tour actually. Now that I think about it, I think I was 14, 13 or 14. Yeah, I was 13. Yeah, I went to Warped Tour at 13. I wouldn't be able to tell you who I saw there, but I was going to that. I think I went to that, and I went to that the following year, and then by eighth grade, or yeah, because I think this is seventh grade. By eighth grade, yeah, I was started to go to smaller shows, and um I don't even think I went to any big festival or anything beyond New Jersey. Just, I mean, the biggest thing would be Warped Tour. Other than that, it was going to the Stone Pony or Starland Ballroom, or smaller venues like there's the Saint in Asbury Park or Asbury Lanes for some smaller shows. And yeah, I think that's about it for high school at least.
Did you get involved with your local scene at all, aside from going to shows?
Not at the time, which is very funny because like I was drawing forever since, before I even discovered music. So it's funny that at the time, it's weird how when we grew up, we're like, I didn't think to combine the two till college, or it, because there were so many opportunities where I could have reached out. Not that I think, I was that good then. Or like, looking back even last year, I'm looking like, oh my God. But, but anyway, at the time, it's just funny that like, I never thought to do that. Maybe I was shy or nervous, but I don't even remember the thought coming into my mind. I think I just, at that point, like was like, oh, now I'm interested. I was just like goofing off and running around, and like, I just didn't think about it. I mean, the most I would try to get involved would be like I was about to say, I mean, I never did this, but like being interested in like, oh, there's such a thing as a street team. That sounds fun.
Any other shows or bands you remember seeing at this time while you were still in New Jersey?
Yeah, another band just popped into my head right now that who knows what happened to them. There was a girl in my school who said her brother was in a band, and a ska band, because she knew I listened to ska. I don't remember her name. Her locker was next to mine, but his band played at, I believe, this same what was it called? Summer camp out, Starland Summer camp out, which was like Less Than Jake, Real Big Fish, blah blah. But he had this band called the Nerd Who Ate St. Louis. They were like another local ska band, and they had this song called I think it was called like My Anus Is on Fire or something like that. Some kind of ridiculous song. Yeah, so there's that. Let me think. Who else did I see? I really that might be it for the strange ones. Oh, I might have seen actually Fatter Than Albert once.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that just popped into my head too. That's right.
Do you remember anything from that show?
I don't. I think it was in a strange, scary, middle of the woods kind of. It wasn't like a real venue. It was like used for like an event space or something. That's the only thing I can remember.
Okay. Any other like touring bands, maybe bigger bands that you remember seeing?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I saw the Aquabats plenty of times. I've seen Big D. I used to see Bomb the Music Industry like crazy. I mean, I guess you consider them bigger. Maybe they could still be in kind of the smallish category at the time, because I've seen them
Yeah.
plenty of times in Jersey. Like I guess, yeah, like Asbury Lanes is a tiny venue. They were fun to see there. They played. That was at the time where I think they were like against having merchandise or something. Like I really wanted a shirt with them on it because they were my favorite band for a little while. But I believe there was a period where they wouldn't sell merchandise. Like all their stuff was online for free, and so you had to like they had like make your own shirt. You could like spray paint their logo on a white T-shirt if you brought one, which I didn't, so I wasn't able to. But yeah, that's one. Who else? I mean, I saw NoFX a bunch of times. I saw Mustard Plug. I saw the Bosstones there. I think this is all at that same venue, where the only venue in town where it would either be the Stone Pony or Starland Ballroom. But yeah, Less Than Jake. I think I saw the Planet Smashers, Goldfinger. Uh, I think that's it.
So when did you start doing art?
Oh, I don't know. It literally as long as I can remember. I can't even pinpoint. I mean, it would have to be. I mean, I can tell you the first comic I put together was second grade. Like I would fold them and make comics and staple them, and I have like hundreds of those. But I know I was drawing prior to that. Excuse me. But uh, yeah, I mean, it'd have to be since I was like 7 or something or younger. I never remember a time where I wasn't drawing, essentially.
Did it drive you crazy at that age? Like trying to staple the pages and them not being like a comic book, like because you have to use like a zine stapler. A regular stapler isn't long enough.
Yeah. Well, it was no, because if you fold the paper in half and like it, I mean, as a kid, it was like it was so sloppy. It didn't bother me. I didn't care.
Oh, it drove me crazy as a kid. Like because I would try
Really?
doing the same thing at that age, and like not being able to put the staples on the seam, like having to put them like on the like edge,
Sure.
drove me out of my mind up until Up until I got a zine stapler.
No, for sure. I mean, I think that's something that bothered me later on once I started like taking it seriously.
Yeah.
But like when I was that, it was just like,
Yeah, you didn't give a shit. You're just like, yeah, go for it.
yeah, no, it was just like even Scotch tape at some point. But it's funny. This is just a tangent now. But now that you mentioned, how long have I been drawing? And before, when you asked when did I start listening, or when I was asked when did I start listening to music, I just thought of, my first thing was going to say I was going to talk about cartoons, and I realized that before like I said, I didn't listen to any music till essentially seventh grade, but a lot of the music that I did listen to as a kid was just from watching cartoons. And it's so funny that the song that I had LimeWire, and I would just download cartoon songs and put them on, like, even though CD players were around then, I still had like a little cassette tape, and I would like burn it onto a cassette tape. And I would listen to the Kablam theme song like over and over again, which is really funny because it was like way before I even knew what ska was. And obviously the Toasters did that song.
Amazing. Scott from the beginning.
I know. Yeah, it all starts there.
Yeah,
I mean, and honestly, a lot of '90s cartoons had kind of a ska influence anyway in their
totally.
theme songs. Like Angry Beavers, if you remember that theme song, was totally ska.
The one you were talking about, the first comic you made, was this your first instance of making something and getting it out to other people? Or were you pretty open with showing everybody your art?
Yeah, I mean, at that time, it would just be shown to my parents. Like it's, in second grade. Like, look at this. It wasn't until fifth grade that I actually started bringing them around into class and like making like I would recruit other friends in class, like, oh, come up with characters with me and let's make a magazine and staple it and give it out to everyone in class. And we did that until the teacher got fed up with it and was like, okay, no more comics in class. And then everyone got really depressed.
Tell us some of the stories that you drew back then.
Basically, it's funny. Ironically, even though I'm not a superhero person at all, like I never read superhero comics, the comics that I drew in a goofy, cartoony style were all superhero comics. But they kind of looked like SpongeBob esque. And until then, in fifth grade, all these other friends that I were, asked to create these characters with, we would just draw these like strange, kind of like goofy, like, loser superheroes, not, made, animals or whatever they would be, but we would make like a Mad Magazine type magazine and just make these like, for fifth grade at least, satirical little comics and like, you know uh irreverent sort of stories of just like people beating each other out, just little stupid kid stuff. Nothing nothing that I would look back on and be like, wow, I should revamp that now.
Okay, so you go to college. Where do you go to college at?
I went to a school of visual arts in Manhattan.
Now, it's in college that you start to think about collaborating with musicians or working with bands and stuff. Tell us about that.
Yeah. It's funny. Like I said, in high school, it's because, drawing was my whole life till high school. And then when I discovered music, I just spent all my time going to shows and I kind of stopped drawing for a while. And it's funny, like I said before, I didn't think to combine the two. And then in college, once I started to, revisit my art because it was kind of like on hiatus because I was just going to so many shows and everything, and I was going to art school, so I stepped back into it. Um, I I That's not the first thing I did. The first thing was just, learning because my major was cartooning, so it actually was comics. So the first thing was I focused just on learning comics, but then I had a really influential teacher for me actually was Gary Panter. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He designed all the Pee Wee's Playhouse characters, and he also
Oh yeah.
yeah, he's like, I think he probably wouldn't call himself that, and I think he's even said that in class. He was like, I'm not like a punk cartoonist, but like the world has, deemed him a punk cartoonist because he's like, he did the Screamers logo, and he was like he was big into doing artwork for tons of bands in the '80s, and he was the one I remember sitting there and being like, he was just like, do art for bands, like do this now. I mean, at the time I think he made a comment like print media is going to go away soon, and do as many band flyers as you can. Just now is the time to do it. He really talked about it like it was such a fun thing to do. And like the second he said that, it just clicked like, why, of course, why would I would love to do that. In my head, it's like, I can't believe it took him saying that for me to realize it's something I would have always wanted to do. And after that, I just started. I don't think it actually happened until, if this is 2010 till 2013. Either I didn't reach out to anyone, or I didn't hear back. I can't remember what happened in the time period, but yeah, but basically that experience is what really pushed me to go for it.
So what happened in 2013? Did you reach out to any specific band? Can you remember the first collaboration you did?
Let me think. Yeah, in 2013, I moved to California, and I think being that, I think it was what I talked about before. The first time Oh, no, I'm sorry. I remember now what happened. It wasn't for a band at first. It was I moved to California. I came across this It's a Ska Day at Disneyland, that somebody put together, where it was like a bunch of ska fans would join together and go to Disney for the day, and they needed artwork.
Yeah.
Or I reached out to them, whether maybe they didn't need it, but I asked them if I could do some artwork for them, and they were totally into it. And I did artwork for them, and they made like buttons and stuff, and that was really fun. And I think that led to me seeing online. I can't remember who, but it was like a few bands putting together this ska revival tour, and I just reached out and was like, "Oh, I would really like to do some artwork for it. It sounds really fun." And that's how it started.
Did you go to the It's a Ska World After All event?
Well, it was really funny because like I didn't know anyone in California yet. Like I was kind of brand new here, so I also wanted to meet people. And what's really funny is like it it's a very calm group actually. It's a bunch of people who just want to walk around, have fun, and talk about ska. But my main memory of the event is getting thrown out, because I remember there was a point towards the end where everybody gathered together on Main Street, and it was the point in the evening. I think what they did was like, you can split up or you can walk with a group, and at the end they have like a raffle where they're going to throw out some shirts or whatever to people, or I think they had a few CDs. And immediately when security saw a group of people, quote unquote, dressed in this way, like gathering there, they just ran up and they broke it up, and they just said, you all have to leave, because I think they thought that things were being sold. There were just so many things against the Disney rule that yeah, they kicked everyone out.
How were you dressed?
I mean, I was dressed, just in a t-shirt, but I mean, them seeing some people with mohawks and piercings, I think it just freaked freaked out the cast members.
All right. How many people were part of this It's a Ska World collective that you were hanging out with?
It was a pretty big group, actually. I think it was almost. I mean, I remember it being over 20 people, so it was pretty big.
Nice. Are you still friends with them?
I haven't spoken to them in a long time now, but the two organizers. But I'm friends with them on Facebook.
So, okay, I want to talk a little bit about your art. I'm interested in Scumburbia in particular,
Oh, sure.
but in general, you talked about drawing in the style of Simpsons for a long time, and then realizing
hmm
you needed to develop your own style. How did you develop your own style, or I'm not an artist. I don't really know how it works. I'm just saying, like, what were the ways you found your own voice? I guess I'm asking.
Yeah, sure, sure. No, I mean, I well, when I went to art school, they would always say, I assumed I did have my own style, but that, prior to college, but I kind of just drew. Looking at it now, which makes sense, it just looks like weird, combination of whatever the Simpsons and any other cartoons I watched at the time. And when I got to college, the first thing they said was like, you go to art school, we're not interested in you developing a style here. You can do that on your own. We want to teach you how to draw. And like that makes sense to me now, because like they didn't want you to use style to cover up, mistakes or poor drawing. And that's basically what I did. I refused. Like, I don't need to learn life drawing. I'm just going to draw cartoons. But of course, what I didn't know was that the better you draw, the better your cartoons look. And I kind of learned that the hard way. And then finally, by the end of college, it was, in the middle of college, I had a class where I turned in an assignment. A teacher was like, this joke is good, but the way this looks, every teacher is different. Some are not interested in style, some want you to develop a style. So it's good that you're getting information from all different perspectives. And this one teacher was like, this is a fun drawing. He's like, but we've seen this before. This is the Simpsons. Like, what how do you draw? And I don't think I could have answered that at the time. And I think just by being exposed to so many different cartoonists, like, because prior to that, you could say I was sheltered. Like, I liked The Simpsons, I liked whatever Nickelodeon, I read a few comics, but there's just like a world of underground alternative and independent comics I just was unfamiliar with. So anyway, being exposed to all these different artists just by, I don't know, osmosis or reading them. I mean, there were assignments I did take classes where you had to ink with different tools. I mean, everything coming together, I don't know, and when I look at past sketchbooks, it's literally an evolution of just, this is just how I draw now. I mean, I could try to look and pinpoint, and people have even said to me like, "Oh, are you influenced by blank?" And usually the answer is always yes, but it's like 100 different influences that merge together to create this, I guess.
Were there any artistic hurdles you had to overcome, like blind spots as far as like subject matter, or things that you originally maybe looked down on and then later accepted as art styles? Like, are there things that you were talking about using your style to like hide things, and I feel like a lot of artists do that, a lot of musicians do that. Were there things that you had to break?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, I did that though, because to be completely honest, I don't think that at the time, and maybe you don't think that at the time, but it's kind of laziness. It's because I didn't want to take the time to really sit and learn how to really. And again, I'm never going to be done. I'm learning every day. I'm trying to get better
Yeah.
every day. I mean, like I said, things I look at last year, I'm like, oh my God. So it's like, yeah, I just was like, oh, when I had that attitude when I was like, whatever, 17, or like even throughout till towards the end of college when I changed, it's just like, I don't know, you just assume, you use it as a crutch. It's like, I'm drawing funky cartoons, so I don't need to learn how to really draw. But yeah, it's like once you do learn these things, it just makes everything so much stronger. And it's kind of over everything, not technically, it's personality, because the more you are open and accepting to just growing in criticism, the better your art will be, or just you'll be in general in life. So like, it'll just make everything better. And like, not being married to anything you do is the best way to look at everything, because if you draw something, or at least for me, if I drew something back then and I could see something is off, I would just move on. But now it's like, no, I really should erase it and draw it the way it should be. But it was just, I was like, no, I want to move on. I don't want to redraw that leg. But like, why not redraw it? It's going to look better.
But yeah, I so many times do a whole thing and then go, oh, this should actually, and it's horrible when, especially if you get used to working on a computer and then you're working in just traditional medium, ink and paper,
Yeah.
draw the whole thing on a piece of ink and paper, and then realize, oh wait, no, it should be like this. And then it's like, okay, time to start over again and eat that time that you just spent on it.
100%. And then sometimes you forget that you can't do command undo, or command D on paper.
I can't command Z this.
Yeah, command Z. Yeah.
How are you at drawing hands?
Horrible. That's like the absolute hardest thing to draw for me.
Why is it so hard?
Because they're so strange looking and there's so many bones, and to make poses look right, it's just so difficult. I mean, my biggest thing growing up was I'd always put the thumb on the wrong side of the hand. And I still to this day sometimes do that. I mean, it's just so difficult. It's just really hard.
If you're trying to hide hands, everybody's done it. What do you do?
I don't do things like that anymore, so it's hard for me to answer. But in the past, I don't know, because now I really try to. In fact, this job has taught me that I can't hide anything anymore. So
Yeah.
in my own art, it's made me a lot better, because I would, write comics that avoided cars. I would do things but it's like now I'm just going for it because it's like I don't want to not do things because I'm afraid to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Drawing cars is another one.
But to answer your question, just make a character who had his hands cut off.
Who's got his hands in his pocket? How about that one?
Yeah.
Oh, I've done that for sure. I've never done the hands cut off unless it's like a monster. And then it's like, oh yeah, the hands are cut off.
Edward Pocket Hands.
He wants to give her a hug at the end of the movie, but he can't because his hands are in his pocket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like Scumburbia and like some of your other stuff, life lessons, it feels like a lot of your influence comes from sort of the punk and subcultures, but also kind of a silliness too. Can you eliminate on that a little bit?
Yeah, totally. I mean, like I said, like it's funny because the merging of the two of music and ska and art didn't click in for me until college. And I think that is because so prior to that I was just drawing goofy weird creatures, and like, which I still like to draw, but these weren't, like I said, I was drawing like superhero, and again, there's nothing against that, and I even still like the idea of doing a kids kind of superhero thing. But then when I got to college, I'm introduced to like so many different types of storytelling, memoirs, and you know, um, like people's diary comics, and just things that really open my mind. Like it was so appealing to me to make a bunch of characters and stories. Like I just had so many, that period in my life in high school where I kind of stopped drawing for a little and just spent time, whatever, goofing off and going to concerts and hanging out with friends and everything. I just, looking back on it, I just was like, wow, like I just really want to tell some fun, goofy stories about, influenced by my time growing up in New Jersey. And not that any of them are true stories, but they're definitely based on like things that either happened to me or happened to friends, or just stories I heard or local legends, just that kind of, s- suburban legends, what dare I say? But yeah, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's really where the influence comes from, and it's like before I can move on to whatever I want to do after this, I want to like get all these stories out. It's almost like it kind of, even though like I said, it's not literally um true stories, but it's almost like I need to let all this out like a diary into these comics, into this Scumburbia series, before I just move on to whatever else I want to do.
So why Scumburbia? What's the tone you're painting of this world?
Well, I kind of have two different stories going on in this series, even though there's going to be a lot of different stories. But I have stories with like two younger kids who are like in seventh grade and high schoolers, and because I kind of, in my interests in general, have always been attracted to goofy kids storytelling, and then I love really dark, serious um coming of age films and tales. I wanted to just make a comic where I could have, okay, half of the story will be kind of a fun, goofy, whatever, like local adventure with these seventh graders. And then I'll also tell more darker stories, darker, quote unquote, with high schoolers. And that originally came from just remembering, how I felt during that time, that I was kind of running around and being happy go lucky in seventh and eighth grade. And then, high school sets in, and then you start getting into, relationships and fights and meeting so many different types of people, and you get bullied, and life is hard, then life is okay, and you meet certain people and you lose friends and you make friends. And I just wanted to tell, these different stories about that. And the title just came from, I think I was in college, and I was just trying to come up with some kind of name. Originally, I was coming up with specific titles that would reference New Jersey, and I was like, no, I don't want to set this in New Jersey, because not that anyone would, not relate to it, because we've all been teenagers but I was like, why don't I just come up with some generic name that will, uh, kind of speak to whatever the comic is about. And what's funny is the people that have picked it up have always been like, "Oh, you must have grown up here. You based this on my town." I was like, "Well, actually, I'm from New Jersey, and they'll be from like Maine or something." I'm like, "Well, okay, well, I guess it is the same all over." But yeah, so yeah, that's really where I came up with the title, just because it was like there are so many people who at the time I felt like were scum to me that I was surrounded by that. Like, well, scum in suburbia. I'll just combine the two.
Yeah.
I like the life lessons. I don't know if that was just a short, but you have it as a short, like video.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was just a short. Yeah.
It's like punks, kind of like punks philosophizing a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That was. It's funny. There's a short by Ardman who did Wallace and Gromit called Creature Comforts, which I loved. I saw in art school. It's just like all the subcultures of which I didn't know at the time because some my friend's boyfriend who's from London told me that that was parroting all the different types of people from the different towns in London. I would have never known the difference between the accents, and that they would be like, "Oh, that's parroting this type of person." But anyway, I saw after seeing that, I was just thinking, like, man, like I want to combine that with my comic and just make a little short, like, what would, like you said, what would punk people be think they're deep in high school? What would they come up with? And some of those things that people said in that were exact things people said that I remember them saying in high school. So,
Like what's one that you can remember that was
well, the lowering the volume one was definitely one that someone said to me.
what
And
did they say for people who haven't seen the short?
oh, sorry, yeah, it was. If you want to drive someone crazy, always lower the volume when a song they like comes on. Yeah, there was another short too that that one I did for a company called Bento Box, but I did another short for Giphy, and that one is I asked Catbite to do the score to that one, which was fun.
What was the name of it?
This was it was called Hangout Today with the number two, and that was Giphy is people mainly know them for the gifs on Instagram that you can share on your story, but I think they're trying to start a new thing where they are going to have 30-second shorts similar to like I don't think they have like a presence on TikTok or anything yet. I could be wrong, but I think what they're trying to do is try to expand into a little more long form. But by that I mean 30-second clips. But anyway, they I got in touch with them and they said I could make a little short, and uh, this is their first foray into using music with GIF. So and audio, and because lip sync is really long and hard to do, which I did in that life lesson short, but that was after this. I was like, I'm just going to do a silent short. So I just storyboarded this quick thing of these three dog punk people hanging out again in suburbia, running around, and I needed a ska punk song for it. So I asked Catbite to do that, and they were cool enough to make up a really cool song.
Nice. Did you already know the band or did you
I did, yeah. Because they reached out to me for their first show back from COVID in Philly at I think it was at the Phil Mocha. Yeah, wasn't that live streamed with you, right? Yes,
You did the poster for that. It was with Froggy.
yes, yes, yes.
You did like a character in a bathtub.
Yeah, yeah. So after they asked me to do that, then I guess a year went by, and I was like, then I asked them to do something for me, and they, like I said, they were really cool enough to come up with something. And I think my direction to them was I wanted it to sound like a Saturday morning cartoon, but like like again influenced by the songs that I listened to as a kid, like the Nickelodeon songs or Kablam or any of that stuff, and they just like got it perfectly.
having been in a music scene as an audience and a participant and having been in the art scene as an artist, do you feel like there's similarities or differences to these scenes?
That's an interesting question. I mean, like similarity in terms of the community and everybody loves supporting each other, especially now, being that I know a few of these guys like Catbite and Kill Lincoln, and everyone's so friendly and they want to support each other as artists in that regard, definitely. Because, like, for me, I love being part of anthologies and being friends with other cartoonists. And it's the same way that I bet a bunch of bands would like to be on compilations with with each other, because they're just supporting each other. And we all love the same stuff anyway. So yeah, the similarity in that regard, definitely. And also it's fun when you meet artists that are also interested in the same type of music that you are. And then you build relationships based on, like the few artists I know that also listen to ska, cartoonists. It's always fun when I run into people here that are like, "Oh wow, you're a cartoonist and you like ska. That's awesome."
Yeah, name some artists, whether or not people know them or not. Just name some artists that you know of that are ska fans.
Well, the first person I met out here, Tom Foolery. I don't know if you've heard of him. He did a Real Big Fish album cover. I'm blanking which cover he did right now. It's with the bunnies or holding liquor bottles. I think it's. Let me see. I gotta look this up quickly. But anyway, I met him out here, and he's really cool. Yeah, yeah, Bunny. It's called Candy Coated Fury.
Okay.
I met him. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but he's really cool. He's been in an art show of mine. Um, oh man, see, it's so few and far between. I don't know this person personally, but I found him through Instagram, and I think he follows me now too. But anyway, I think he co-created Craig of the Creek on Nickelodeon. I think he got
Jeff.
Jeff Rosenstock to do the score. So that's another one that I was like, oh, there is someone else.
And then, of course, Josh. We were talking about Josh before that we started recording.
Oh, of course. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was so funny when I found out, because I met the guys from Silver Sprocket before I knew Josh, and then when he started working there, or maybe he was working there and I didn't meet him yet. But yeah, then when I met him, and it was so funny that he also was like, we talked about doing like a ska comic zine together that we're kind of working on and off now. It's been a while, but we have to revisit that.
For anyone listening, this is Josh from Sad Snack.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, they're great.
So ska comic coming soon.
Coming soon in the next 10 years.
Don't go anywhere. If you want to hear the rest of this conversation, head over to our Patreon. Thank you for listening to In Defense of Ska. Please rate and review this podcast and tell a friend. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at In Defense of Ska. Pick up Aaron's book, In Defense of Ska, at your local bookstore or online. This podcast is edited by Chris Reeves of Ska Punk International. This is your co-host, Adam Davis of Omnigon, leaving you by saying ska now more than ever. And you just listened to our interview with Sam Grinberg.
I was really expecting you to just start singing the Simpsons theme song. That's what I was expecting you to do. There we go.
Shut the fuck up. Hey, so there's more of this episode.
Oh, you know what we asked him behind the curtain? We asked him if he ever got to meet Eric Stefani, the former No Doubt keyboardist that went on to work at The Simpsons.
And he gave us the answer, and we know the answer, but you don't know the answer. But would you like to know the answer? Better fork over $5.
5 or more.
5 or more, preferably more. Hey, we're trying to make this into a thing. You know, we give you the podcast for free, but you know, if you can afford to pay a little bit, we'd like to do this, you know, all the time, full time. Just do the podcast.
Only
no
podcast.
Other things. Only podcast. Only podcast exists. Nothing else. Aaron, we haven't missed a week yet, right? What's next week?
We have never, ever.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. Next week. Let's talk about next week. We got an Aquabat on our hands.
Ooh.
Yes.
Are we going to say which one, or are we just going to...
No, we're going to say it's a Eagle Bones Falcon Hawk.